I appreciate the introduction of me as an educator, but that's really not my background getting into charter schools and school choice. My background is actually in military national security. I got into this as a concerned parent. I've never taken an education class, but I'm fortunate enough to now be leading a network of charter schools here in Colorado. Again, the power of parents is a pretty amazing thing who just want a better outcome for better opportunities for their kids. For me, I had the chance to work with some inner city charter schools in Denver public schools. These are schools that serve a high minority, high rates of kids living in poverty. And I remember, and they're grant funded. There's a substantial amount of foundation dollars coming in to support these schools because these are opportunities that these kids need. But I remember walking down the halls one day of one of these schools, and on the bulletin board, they had this Monopoly man with his top hat on, dollars floating all over, which is good. Kids need to learn about capitalism. They need to learn about entrepreneurship. They need to learn what it takes to get ahead and make a difference in their own lives. But what was sad is that around that Monopoly man, there was a big red circle with an X through it. The irony that we are going to denigrate wealth and wealth creation and productivity, it just it seemed to be lost from everybody that this is what these kids need to aspire to. They don't have to be irresponsible with wealth, but they need to be given opportunities and recognize them. So that's when I first started to notice there's a problem here, and we're not sending good messages for the children, the most vulnerable children in our populations, and especially the ones that we need to be helping. So that was a concern to me when I had kids. What are the values coming out of public education? And then when my oldest was 2 at the time, I started looking around at schools, and the outcome, and I think Laura and actually Deb can talk about this as well, but if you look at the mission and vision of a lot of schools these days, it's all about college and career readiness. That is the goal, college and career readiness. I want my kids to go out. I want them to live a good life. I want them to have good jobs. I want them to be ready for whatever they want to do. But that is not inspiring to me as a parent, why I'm going to send my kids out for 13 years to be educated by somebody else. If you get into the purposes of education, as Dr. Scheffel mentioned, one of the big things, this goes back to the Greeks and Aristotle and running a network of classical schools. These are the people that we look to frequently. We need to prepare kids to flourish. They need to have the tools to be able to be happy in life. We also, the reason, why do we as a society invest and publicly fund education? Well, part of that is because we also need to transmit a culture. There are things about living in a free society and the ideas of the founders of a country like ours that don't just occur naturally. We have to pass those ideas along. And those are really important things to me and my family, that public education needs to be doing these things if we're going to continue living in a country like America. So I had those two things, and it was a former congressman who runs another school here in Colorado, Bob Schaefer. I was going through a program with him at the time, and he framed it pretty succinctly that it is the right and responsibility for parents to direct the upbringing and education of their children. For me, that was a real clear idea of what's missing in a large part of public education today, because we've lost that focus. As Jeff mentioned with John Dewey, it's the idea that we're not partnering with parents, we're now replacing parents. Again, who's alarmed by that? So I'm really excited that we run a network of charter schools here that are currently expanding. We have a school in Golden View Classical Academy. We opened up one this past year in Douglas County, Ascent Classical Academies of Douglas County. And right now we're working on a third up in the Boulder Valley, Adams 12 area, so up in the northwest part. And we have plans to build a lot more of them to serve more families, and we've had people who've seen the success of our flagship schools say, this is great. They've come and done tours. They said, we need more of this. We need schools that respect us as parents. They partner with us as parents. They don't try to replace us. So we're really excited about opportunities to do that. Deb touched on a really important thing. I think when we talk about school choice and the framework to be able to do interesting things with public education, even people on the conservative side are really tied in this idea of local control. they're okay pushing things down to local school boards and just letting it stay there, because that's local control. They're elected. The downside is when you are operating that way, it's easy, and we've seen this in Colorado, that special interests frequently control a lot of these school boards. And these school boards are the gatekeepers to school choice in Colorado. When Colorado was founded, in the Colorado Constitution, a school district was made up of the parents of 10 children. Parents of 10 kids could get together, file, say, we want to be a school district. We want to start a school. And that was local control as envisioned in the Constitution of Colorado. This idea that we have school districts of tens of thousands of kids and 5 people now control access to what those parents have is not what was envisioned in Colorado. And the idea of local control, it slowly evolved to maybe parents of 15 kids. And at one time in Colorado, we had 3,000 school districts in the state of Colorado alone. So parents had a voice in the education of their kids. We're now at under 200 school districts. I think it's 180 something now. So conservatives especially need to wake up and reject the idea that school districts are local control. We need to get back to what it was intended to be. So what does local control have to do with charter schools and school choice anyway? The frameworks for charter schools in Colorado are that local school districts can be the exclusive gatekeepers to the choices that parents have in the community. So they can have exclusive, it's called exclusive chartering authority. They can say, we want to be the only people to say what schools can come into our school district. Unfortunately, we had a unfortunate vote this week in Adams County where a school district or a board of 5 people came together and denied an application for a charter school of ours. And as Jeff mentioned, actually 5 of the top 10 or 6 of the top 10 most successful schools in the state of Colorado are actually classical or liberal arts schools like ours. So we have a replication school. We have over 560 kids interested in our school. So we have the interest, we have facilities, and we have the proven model. We have 5 people who say, we don't like what you're offering. We just personally don't like your low-tech approach. We don't like your curriculum, whatever the reasons are. That's not okay for me as a parent for somebody else to say what choices my kids are going to have access to. So look forward to a lot of questions, and thanks, Jeff.
Great.